Thank you. It is 5:30 and we're calling to order the Tuesday, October 5th, 2021 meeting of the Tompkins County Legislature. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Thank you. Roll call of members.
Ann Corman.
Present.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Dave McKenna.
Here.
Glenn Morey.
Here.
Martha Robertson.
Here.
Leslie Show. Mike Sigler.
Here.
Shauna Black.
Here.
Amanda Champion.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Ed Granison.
Present.
Rich John.
Here.
Dan Klein.
Here.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne.
Present.
13 members present.
Thank you. Petition proclamations, communications and notices. You would have received any communications in your mailboxes, and there are no proclamations this evening. I do want to, before we get in floor, take a moment and ask you all to please indulge me. As most of you, my colleague legislators know, during this weekend or past weekend, our former colleague, Pat Pryor, passed away. Thank you, Mike, for sharing that information with us, and also Anna Kellis. Pat served in this body for a number of years, was very well involved, not only in the legislature, but also in the community. I remember serving with Pat as a teacher at Ithaca High School. So please indulge me in a moment of silence, honoring and respecting our former colleague, Pat Pryor. Thank you. Continue to rest in peace and power, Pat. There are no executive sessions for this evening, and I don't think I need to reorder business too much, so we'll move right on with privilege of the floor for the public. Number of cards for folks who have signed up to address the legislature. I want to also acknowledge that we have some legislators in chamber, but we also have several of our colleagues who are attending remotely to do so. So, Mark Whitmer. Mark, are you here? I don't see him.
Oh, he just came in. Mark.
Okay. Mark Whitmer, I'm calling on you, Mark. Privilege of the floor.
Oh, hi. Hi, Leslyn. Thank you. I just sat down and zoomed in, and so thanks very much. Yeah, I just wanted to offer my comments. I know that the legislature is trying to decide what to do about the broadband study, and I'm encouraging that we continue with that study. I did offer my comments this morning at the committee meeting, so thank you. And I guess just to summarize, I feel like I mean, we all recognize the need for broadband, and that this is a key need in our communities now. And I feel we have now, with attention and resources clearly focused on our residents' needs from ARPA, from the federal government, this is the time to take the opportunity. And I think with I mean, I had a good discussion with Megan McDonald late this afternoon that helped me understand more about the issues here. And from my understanding, they feel like it's sort of either we need to choose a path here, and I think I think it's worth taking the additional time to pursue completion of the Fujitsu study to see what it can tell us. I feel like we really need to take this opportunity to change the system that is resulting in unsatisfactory service by largely single ISPs in particular areas. So I would urge that we continue that, and then we can make a decision after we have the results of that study about doing a finer grained ground truthing of internet access. And I will point out, I got a notice yesterday from New York State that they're initiating some kind of a comprehensive internet access survey in the state. So I don't know how that might relate to to this effort. And so yeah, so that's my comment. I think the Fujitsu study is an opportunity that we should take. I realize that we are anxious to address the needs that have been made very clear to us. But I think this is an opportunity that we should pursue. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you. Please allow me to also properly acknowledge you as the supervisor from the town of Caroline. So thank you for joining us and for your comments.
You're welcome. I also, if I can just add that one thing I brought up, if TCOG can assist in any way, I think that I would be willing to advance that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on my list, and hopefully I'm pronouncing this name correctly, Cosimo Fabrizio. Please come up to the microphone. And please speak directly into the microphone as well.
How's this? You got the pronunciation right, by the way. Thank you.
Very welcome.
I can start? Thank you. My name is Cosimo Fabrizio. I'm a senior studying economics and government at Cornell. And I'm here on behalf of a group of students at Cornell that has been deeply invested in improving and researching the state of reentry in Tompkins County and Ithaca specifically. We are coming today to speak, and I'll let colleagues Zoe and Mark Juan speak more in their section of public comment. But we have finished or culminated a 2.5-year research project, which I wanted to speak to you all about, that has resulted in a proposal for I believe, roughly $111,000 a year subsidy for people reentering the community from a period of confinement. When we were doing these interviews, which a team of students and we spoke to roughly 50, 60 people who were formerly incarcerated and now in Tompkins County, we were trying to get an understanding of what their experience was transitioning back to the community. And what we found was consistently those who tried their best to keep up with parole, administrative tasks, to find jobs. The thing that ultimately held people back from achieving success in reentry was a lack of affordable and safe housing. Now, without getting into the specifics, because I believe you guys are informed either of the proposal itself in full or have been made aware of some specifics by the team of professors who I think spoke last week. What we found is that a lack of affordable and safe housing is the single biggest barrier preventing people from having successful reentry. And the externalities of that, unfortunately, are that jail operational costs have to increase. Unfortunately, you'll start to see a rise in recidivism, not necessarily because people are defaulting back to their own ways by choice, but because simply from the fact of the lack of convenience, being able to get to a jail, being able to meet their parole deadlines, it becomes very burdensome. Also, not to mention the difficulties of finding a job in Ithaca. After all that, we put this report together and we're fortunately able to do a collaborative effort with Ithaca College, URO, OAR, and INHS, which are activist groups in town working to support this housing program as well. And this proposal, as will be spoke to more later, would provide not just safe, clean, affordable housing for roughly 20 to 25 people annually in Ithaca and Tompkins County, which for context is roughly 50% of the current population that recycles through the jail on an annual basis. But it would also provide them substantial programming. Domestic violence survivors will be able to receive counseling for their experiences. People who have issues with substance abuse would receive service. And high level, as a student of government and economics, I'm very excited to be a part of a proposal and hope you all will consider this as an opportunity, not just to support the community, but really for Ithaca to be on the forefront of advancing this housing first approach to reentry. So I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I'll do as well with his name, but Zor, is it Zor Flash? Yes. So please help me with the pronunciation.
Oh, yes, sorry. It's Zoe Fleischacker.
Zoe,
Yes.
got it.
Great. May I begin? Okay.
Yes, you may.
So yeah, I'm Zoe Fleischacker. I'm also a senior at Cornell studying government from New York City. And I too am here to implore you all to consider this project. As Cosmo mentioned, there have been interviews that have been conducted with people. People were asked, what are your struggles as someone coming out of prison? What is it that you need the most? And the answer consistently was that people needed access to affordable housing. And as legislators, I implore you to think about these constituents. These are also your constituents and they're telling you what they need. They're telling you we need help and we need housing. And that's exactly what this program does. It gives them the thing that they need, that they're saying is the cause of their struggles. Now, beyond that, just from a logical standpoint, this is the way to go as the numbers show. In terms of saving money, you're going to be saving a lot of money in terms of jail costs. You'll also be saving money in general because people are now going to be entering the job force. People are not going to be left on the streets because they'll have a place to go. Now, this program also includes programming. These people we're not just giving away housing, we're also giving them access to the resources they need to better their situation. When we think about crimes of poverty, the reasons why people commit these crimes, we need to think about how we can best help them, how we can get to the root of the problem. And that's exactly what this proposal does. And the numbers really speak to that too. Beyond the emotion, beyond, the appeal to help these people that are in need of help, the numbers don't lie. The numbers show that this is the number one issue, housing. Now, Ithaca is in a very unique position. We have the ability to be at the forefront, as Cosmo said before, of this initiative. This is something that we can try. And the thing is, we're already investing money in these constituents, right? We're paying to house them in jails. We're paying for other costs that are associated with a lack of stability that comes with their life. And we're just not doing it logically. It's not working. We have high recidivism rates, and we see that we need to try a new approach. And that's the best way to save money. That's the best way to help these people. And that's what they're expressing too. So just from a research perspective, from an emotional perspective, as legislators, I really implore you to ask yourselves, if this is the way that it seems that these people need help, why not try it? Why not try it? So with that, I thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Zoe. Next, I have Juan Frederick.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
You
can.
pronounced it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I begin?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So I just wanted to preface this by just first and foremost thanking you for taking consideration into this proposal. I'm from Rain, Louisiana. You see disparities all the way down south to Louisiana, all the way up to New York. As you know, in the state of New York, there are approximately 12,000 people that are eligible for parole each year, but over 60% of them are denied due to the fact that they don't often have representation. and the fact that they don't have the resources to be reentered in society and to live sustainable lives. This is something that could prevent that. This is something that can not only provide them with the resources that they need, but to surround them with people that are like-minded and have similar aims, similar ambitions to better their circumstance, whether providing professional development to increase the likelihood that they will be reentered and to be productive in society. But most importantly, a problem that we see everywhere in America is racial disparities, which can be seen in Tompkins County. Only 4.4% of an African-American population, but 45% sent to jail, the local jail. In 2019, 33% of which are in the jails currently. We see that all over, and from a personal perspective, I mentioned that I'm from Louisiana. My uncle was convicted of a crime that could have been prevented and could have also led to a different outcome had he received the representation that he deserved. He was branded a felon. He couldn't get a job. He couldn't make his probationary payments. He couldn't attend court because he didn't have a car. And that led to so many technical and even criminal violations because he didn't have the resources to uplift himself. So he had to resort to legal means. You know, we changed that by tackling both the criminal and the technical aspect, which can be delineated by the fact that they're giving subsidized housing, that they're giving professional development, job equipment, computer equipment, and just help with applications that could potentially mitigate the criminal aspect as well as the technical aspect, given that there's increased transportation. It's going to be close to the court-appointed services, mental health services, and that we, in conclusion, feel that this not only mitigates the systemic barriers that allows for increased technical and criminal occurrences, but it also reduces racial disparities, which we believe is of the utmost importance. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. And are there any other members of the student group who wish to address us?
If you have any questions, I know it's not.
Yes.
Thank you for coming down here. And typically we don't engage in question and answer at this time, but I did have one I hope to ask before you left. Did you guys prepare a report of your research, and is that something you could share with the legislators?
Absolutely. I think a version of the report, Ms. Robertson, was sent to you either today by Dr. Paula, who's running the Ithaca College-based portion of it. I would be happy to circulate that if Ms. Robertson, that's okay with you after the conclusion of today's meeting. But yes, there's a report, there's a redacted version as well if you just want to skim over, and all the statistics that we're referring to are highlighted there for your reference.
Thanks for all your work on this. This is really important.
Listening. It really does mean a lot, and we're excited to go back and tell people how receptive you all have been, Mr. John, Ms. Robinson in particular. We really appreciate it.
Beautiful, thank you. We do have exams and stuff, so we're gonna go. I'm sure the rest of the meeting.
That's fine. Anyone else, any other questions? Well, thank you all very much, and thank you for your work on this. Oh, hold on a second. Martha, did you have a question?
Yes, Professor Ioniti from Ithaca College did forward me a link to the study today, and I forwarded that to everybody in the legislature this afternoon. So it should be in your inbox. And if you didn't get it, just holler, I will resend it. So thanks very much to the students for coming, and good luck on your exams.
All right. Thank you all. Good luck. Next on my list, I have Robert Lynch. Did you want to speak now, or were you here for municipal official?
Well, I'm here speaking as myself, and I'm also a representative, Enfield's representative on the TCOG Broadband Committee. So I guess I can speak now. First of all, let me express my condolences on the passing of Pat Pryor. She was a friend of my sister's, and also a very able and competent servant of this county, and ironically, a member, and I think chair, of the TCOG Broadband Committee, or I should say the county legislature's Broadband Committee of perhaps almost a decade ago. So it's apropos that I address broadband tonight. I support the resolution before you tonight that would repurpose the funds from the Fujitsu study for a physical survey of fixed broadband. And I do so because I think this will get us there. At least it will try. This morning at a committee meeting, our colleague Martha Robertson said something almost in passing, and I caught it with regards to the Fujitsu study. She said, would we be building a bridge to nowhere? And there's a reason why she said that. Because the Fujitsu study is talking about middle mile, and that's like a long distance carrier for telephone. And a long distance carrier, you can have the greatest long distance carrier in the world, but it does you no good if you don't have phone service in your house or a cell tower nearby. And that's the problem here, because there's no guarantee, it was said this morning, that we're going to take that connection between that middle mile and take it to the home. We don't know if the ISPs are going to provide that. What we need, and we needed it in Pat Pryor's time, and we need it today, is a survey, a balance survey that will show where the broadband is and where it isn't. I sympathize with what Mark Whitmer said earlier today and what Dan Klein believes and has talked about, that he likes the Fujitsu study, he thinks it has purpose. Well, what we gotta have is that study is only going to cover, and that what we build was only going to probably cover Caroline, Danby, and Newfield. My town of Enfield, it shows that we're totally served. I know we're not totally served. I know there are pockets. And this house by house, road by road survey is going to help us get a valid database that we can develop something with. I know we've got to get moving on it. Mike Sigler said this morning, my child isn't getting any younger, meaning that he or she needs internet, and we've got to provide it. We've got to do something about it. And I think the resolution before you tonight will get us there. I think it will get us there. We've been talking about it a long time, and I think we've got to fill in the pockets. We've got to move every part of Tompkins County into the 21st century and not just a portion of it. And so I hope you will approve that resolution tonight. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lynch. Anyone else who was here to speak on the privilege of the floor for the public?
I'm aware of.
All right. We'll move on to municipal officials. And I do see, I remember seeing George McGonigal joining us. There you are. George McGonigal, Alderperson, City of Ithaca, First Ward.
Good
Thank
evening,
you for
everybody.
Good evening.
Hope you're all well. I would like to join the chorus in mourning the passing of Pat Pryor. She was a city resident and a member of Common Council, and then she moved to Lansing and was a member of the county legislature. I got to know her over the years at Democratic committee meetings and functions, and she was so tiny and so soft-spoken, and she was tough as nails. And I really came to admire her so much. Mike, I know she ran against you twice. And that first time when she ran and won, I thought that was one of the most amazing runs from behind I've ever seen in local politics. Yeah, I'm sure you think highly of her as well. It was really something. She came to a new community and got on the ledge. So she will be missed. And her advice on just about anything will be missed.
Indeed.
So, city news. I'm gonna use my old trick of hoping to answer more questions than make a prepared statement. We'll tell you we're gonna meet tomorrow night, full council meeting. The mayor is about to show us his proposed budget for the year 2022. We haven't seen it yet. Some of the other things we're dealing with are our 5G city guidelines. We've just about got them hammered out. There's a few minor details we have to work on tomorrow night, but I think we're almost done with that, which will be good to put that behind us. We are still struggling with the damage that was done to the wastewater treatment plant with overflow of material that that basically pulled the lid off the primary digester. We've already voted to spend among all three partners on the wastewater treatment plant $1.5 million to fix the primary digester and the secondary digester. But as those repairs began, it was discovered that there's a lot more solid material in the primary digester than was thought. And there's actually a linear drive shaft at the bottom of the primary digester that is bent, and that has to be either fixed or replaced. So we just found out that in addition to that $1.5 million, it may cost another $1.1 million to really, and now's the time to do it because it's offline and we got it pulled apart. So we're talking about a total of $2.8 million, and we're going to have to find a way to pay for it. And we're going to use a number of different revenue sources, including probably some of that federal money that we're all getting, which I had hoped to use for council pay raises, but that might not happen. So that's all I have, and I'd be glad to try to answer your questions.
Thank you, George. Any questions for George? All right. Henry?
Yes, thank you for the report, George. Can you tell us about the public safety meeting that will be held on Thursday?
Yes. The public safety task force is working on reimagining public safety. And Thursday, I'm glad you mentioned that. I should have mentioned it myself. Thursday will be the opportunity, one of more than one opportunities for the public to weigh in on changes that they would like to see. And the way to do that via Zoom is you can look at the city website, and there's probably going to be other ways to find out about it, but anybody can join in the conversation and share their ideas. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Do you know when they'll be publishing their report or submitting their report to the mayor?
I know it's going to take longer than they thought. I'm on that task force, and it's going to take a while.
Okay. Other questions about redistricting? Have you has the city done anything about that?
Not yet. I will say, and this is just me speaking, I would be very surprised if we didn't continue to have 5 wards with 2 representatives each. That's what I think we'll stick with. And we're hoping that the county will maybe add a spot at the table so that the city and the county districts are more aligned. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your opinion, George. I see Deborah.
Yeah, thanks, Leslie. This is not a question for George, although it's always nice to see George. But I got an email from Susan Malter that I wanted to alert Kathy to. It says, yesterday I signed up to speak tonight about the sunflower houses and have been listening since 5:30. I have no idea how I will be connected in order to speak. I'm just telling you so that if they call on me and I can't respond, it's because I don't know how. So Kathy, I don't know if Susan's waiting in the waiting room or what the story is. But we have one member of the public that cannot seem to connect with us.
I believe she is joined us as an attendee. I wasn't aware that she was interested in speaking under privilege of the floor.
Okay, can you make her a panelist just so that she can do that?
You want to reopen privilege of the floor? Yes, well, Dominic will let her in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Deborah. All right, thank you very much, George,
Thank you all.
for joining us. Take care.
You too.
Just to double check with, is Susan on now? Yes.
There she is.
All right. Well, I'm glad it worked out that you can be on, Susan. We certainly will take your comments, Susan. Just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes on the privilege of the floor to share your comments with us. Please do go ahead. She's working on
Can
it.
you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Deborah, for helping me get on. Susan Moulter, Town of Ithaca. Thank you for the opportunity to mention 3 reasons to support the sunflower houses. One, in a program that I'm in, which is to go into the prisons and get to know a person a month before they're going to be released. And of course, that program is on hold because of COVID. But in the training, the most important thing I learned is where is the person going to go the night they get out of prison? The sunflower houses are safe, it will be safe and supervised. Furthermore, they provide a home address for that person, which will be badly needed when applying for a job or an apartment. 2, the sunflower houses will help the community. Every person who serves and comes out on parole and successfully starts a new productive life makes the community safer. And by not returning to prison, it saves a whole lot of money. My 3rd point is a little unusual. This is a moral issue. In New York State, police can arrest a person after a crime has been committed, take them to jail, not let them go home that night, and interrogate them for sometimes 10 hours straight to try to get them to confess to the crime which they did not commit. They'll lie and say things like your fingerprints were found at the scene of the crime to get them to confess. And think about it. If you were a Black male in this situation and are scared to death about something worse happening to you, which has happened to many Black men in this country for minor things like not using a turn signal to change lanes, it's very tempting to confess to a crime you did not commit to save yourself. Of course, many other people are in prison because they really did commit a crime and they need a second chance. We can do that. We can offer that to them through sunflower houses. As a Tompkins County resident and taxpayer, I strongly encourage you to join with the other organizations that want to offer this service and vote to support them for 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I'm glad that we could get you in to share your
Thank you.
Comments.
You can delete me now or whatever.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue with Reports from municipal officials. I want to circle back with Mr. Lynch to see from the town of Enfield, to see if you had any reports from town of Enfield. I thought earlier you had said you might want to, don't want to put you on the spot though.
Well, our town of Enfield is progressing. We have a budget discussion underway. We had one last night. It's in process. It is very early. We are still dealing with what we will do with regards to a vaccine mandate. I hate to use that word because it sounds loaded, but it's perhaps a vaccine choice resolution, which would allow employees either to fully vaccinate against COVID-19 or alternately to test weekly. And we thank very much Tompkins County for extending the opportunity to defray the cost of this testing. I've spoken about this before, and again, I thank the county for helping us make it easier to implement this program, if indeed we decide to do it. And we'll probably make a decision on that next Wednesday. We're also talking about a masking mandate in our town, but right now we're a town that is dealing with the issues that have to be dealt with. And I think that we are dealing with them satisfactorily. We're trying to get along. Sometimes we make controversy, but maybe sometimes controversy is good because it gets ideas out in the open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? All right, seeing none. I also see Rod Howe, Town of Ithaca Supervisor. Rod, did you want to share with us? Where'd he go?
I'm here.
There you are.
So yeah, good evening, everyone. I don't know if you've been able to discern our rhythm, but we try to come before this body 4 times a year. Bill Goodman and I have been splitting that. So hopefully you figured it out. So it's my turn. You'll see Bill toward the end of the year. Just a very few updates. I'm not going to go into anything very deeply. Oh, George isn't here. I was going to say that I see he reported on the Ithaca Area Wastewater Treatment Facility. You know, it's interesting the things that we get to do in our positions. I got to stand on top of that facility, and it's actually kind of an interesting view, but I got to see the repairs that are happening. So it's always interesting. The town's budget, our 2022 budget, will be presented to the full board this Thursday. It's a $25 million budget, actually down a little bit from this year. We've stayed with the proposed budget, stays within our tax cap limits. And the proposed increase, it would be on a typical town property, it would mean a $25 increase for a property for taxes, or a 1.27% increase. I also want to thank the county for allowing other municipalities to participate in the surveillance testing for unvaccinated employees. So thank you very much. And of course, I know you've gotten lots of kudos for just the leadership you've provided to all the municipalities the past 18 months. Every other calls that we do now are very helpful. So thank you for that. I think you know that the town worked very closely with the city of Ithaca to pass an Ithaca Energy Code supplement. A lot of collaborative work was involved, and this had to do with new construction. We're now starting to turn our attention to what do we do about existing buildings, which will be a big task to think about what we do about existing buildings. Last week, we hosted a meeting of county, city, and town of Ithaca staff working on issues of sustainability, climate change, energy. We're just sharing initiatives. We're looking for ways to keep collaborating. The group wants to meet again in, I think, late November, early December. So we'll set up another time to continue those discussions. The American Rescue Plan funds, the town will be using our 1.6 million for water and sewer infrastructure projects. We're always surprised at the cost associated with those projects. And as you know, sometimes even though you have a capital plan, surprises come along the way and you have to reconfigure what you're going to address in any given year. The 5G. We've been closely tracking what the city is doing. We've had joint we've shared some resources. We did a joint webinar last year. Our Codes and Ordinance Committee is still working on updating our telecommunications law, but we're hearing from the same activists that the city is in terms of concerns about 5G. So stay tuned. I hope that, I think that the Codes and Ordinance Committee will be bringing something to the board maybe later this year to consider. Earlier this year, we passed new neighborhood codes, which is about traditional neighborhood development. Our near-term focus will be on South Hill. So this is the area around the intersection of 96B and West King Road. We've hired a firm to work with us on a charrette in late October. So we're hoping that there might be members of the county who participate in that charrette. It's pretty exciting to think about what might happen up there on the hill just past Ithaca College. By the way, I've probably said this before, I say it a lot. So just up the road from where the focus of this charrette will be, we continue to be excited that the Dalai Lama's permanent library will be in the town of Ithaca. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Not many, we'll be the only municipality that can say, we house the Dalai Lama's permanent library. The town does not have a vision and a mission statement, so we're working on one now, and we have slightly revised our logo. So even the one that was showing before you saw my face is actually the older logo, but it didn't change that much. We just really wanted to give it a updated look and cleaner look. So you'll see that soon, because we're also updating. We're going to have a new website by the end of the year. We're expecting 2 new board members in 2022. Of course, they have to be voted in, but they're unopposed. So we look forward to having some new members of town board. One of those board members has already agreed to be on the Community Housing Fund Committee, which I understand will be meeting fairly soon. So I'm glad that he is stepping forward. We continue to work on parks, trails, and preserves. The town is very proud of our parks, trails, and preserves. The Gateway Trail, we'll make sure there's a big to-do once the Gateway Trail construction happens and that bridge actually goes someplace over Route 13, so stay tuned on that. We submitted a proposal through the CFA process to put in some paths. We have some preserves on Culver Road, if you know where Culver Road is, but we'd like to make it more accessible to the public and allow them to walk on the preserves more freely. We're working with other municipalities on extending the South Hill Recway. So that's been exciting. And of course, it involves working with NYSEG as well on leases and agreements. We're hoping to connect the East Hill Recreation Way with Dryden's new trail. That will involve a Game Farm Road crossing. So we have put together a plan that apparently is being reviewed right now by the county's highway staff. So we hope to hear back from them soon so we can be moving forward on that Game Farm Road crossing. Any of you, especially those of you that cover parts of the town of Ithaca, are always welcome to attend and provide updates to the Ithaca Town Board. So that invitation stands. I'll leave it there, see if there's any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Rod. Lots of good stuff happening. Any questions for Rod? Henry?
Yes, Rod, thanks for the update. Any update on the short-term rentals issue?
Oh, isn't that interesting? It was on my list and somehow I just missed that one. So I think you know that there's been an ad hoc committee working on this issue for over 2 years. And the new goal is for them to get a draft policy to the full town board later this month, actually, because we would like to be able to pass new legislation because 2 of our board members who are stepping down have been very involved in this committee. So to respect their time and involvement, we'd really like to have the full town board vote on something before they leave the position. So as you know, it gets complicated. I look forward to seeing what that committee brings to the full town board. So hopefully you'll be hearing more about that very soon. Thank you for asking, Henry, because I did mean to update on short-term rentals.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rich John.
This is actually for my fellow legislators. Rod, thank you for meeting last week with the representative from Fulton County. We had a guest come down and see the Tompkins Center for History and Culture that Rod was so instrumental in getting off the ground. But we are apparently a role model. They're looking to try to do something similar up there, and it was a good meeting with this representative, and it really brought home how much work we did to get there and what an asset we really have in our county here. And Rod, thank you for all your work on that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun meeting to revisit some things that I had kind of forgotten about. So.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Rod. Martha?
Thank you very much. Rod, it's good to see you. The short-term rentals was sort of my questions, and no pressure, but I hear that the city is waiting for the town to pass something before they tackle it. On your water and sewer projects, are you able to get any information out of the study that's been underway with IAED and I think TG Miller's? I know it's been in the works a couple of years, I think. I don't know if they have sort of like draft information that you can use, or is that you just kind of waiting for that?
I think we're waiting for that. I mean, I certainly know that it's forthcoming. We have a long list of projects, but it's always good to see reports like that to see if we're on target or if there's something we've missed.
Okay, Heather is, I think, really trying to wrangle that out of the consultants by the end of the year, so. Okay, hope you get that in time. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Rod? No. Thank you very much, Rod. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Moving on to privilege of floor for legislators. I'm trying to see what staff I have waiting for anything. All right, legislators, go ahead and make it brief so we can get to the agenda. Shauna Black.
Thank you, Leslyn. I was actually wondering if George McGonigal was still on the call.
George, are you still there?
Maybe not. That's all right. I might have missed him. I'll pop him an email.
Okay.
I wanted to kind of put him on the spot a little bit about some library funding. See if maybe the city can come to the table a little bit more.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Annie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just also wanted to share my condolences along with former legislator Kathy Luz Herrera, who I was in contact with the last couple of days. She's in Texas. We just wanted to express our condolences regarding the passing of Pat Pryor to her family and friends and all in the community. And Pat was also a huge supporter of LGBTQ rights, and including the right to marry. So she had a long history of doing that, including starting the first LGBTQ Democratic Committee in the county. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you very much, Annie. Martha?
Thank you, Leslyn. A few words also about Pat. Her obituary is in the online Ithaca Journal at this point. So I just remember Pat. Was it George who said that she was tiny? I think it was her scoliosis that she got smaller every year, but no shorter in stature in any way. And she just had sort of fierce integrity and a just courageous about saying things that were perhaps unpopular, saying things that nobody else was saying, or at least saying yet, because often people would follow on with what she was saying. I remember, for example, we had a lot of public comment around the time that the SAFE Act was passed in New York State, the gun control law. And that was, people wanted us to pass a resolution calling on the state to repeal that law. And I remember her sitting in the old jail conference room, just with like full of people, all very upset. And she just said, look, you know, I'm a hunter. And everybody was like, oh, really? Yeah, like, yeah, little Pat Pryor had grown up hunting for food with her family, that this was part of her culture and part of her history. But nevertheless, she supported the law, and she was just, she was willing to just in her quiet way, sort of lead the way. And and she was a very active member of WDIC and our Human Rights Commission, and I really want everybody to remember all that she contributed to our community, to our whole community. And I'll just another note I will mention, and Leslie sort of referred to the fact this is the second meeting in a row where we're talking about a former colleague. Irene Stein did let me know that that she had listened to our last meeting, and she really appreciated the things that people said about Peter Stein, who passed away recently as well. So I think this is, these remembrances are important for the whole community, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to reflect and to listen. So thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Mike Sigler?
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to say a little something about Pat as well. I went to church with Pat too, and it just gives you kind of an example of what small town is like. And when Pat beat me, she beat me by like 7 votes. So it was like, it came down to absentee ballots and things like that. So when people say, "Oh, my vote doesn't matter," I can say, "No, I actually have a good story on it." And then the second time, I only beat her by like 33 votes. I had to pull people off of tractors to actually go and vote to beat her. And I tell that story to a lot of people because it's true. You literally have to go out and win. And the great thing I think about Pat in that regard was it really shows that when you come from a town that's pretty evenly matched electorally, you have to be very responsive to your constituents. And that was the gift kind of that Pat gave to me, either knowingly or unknowingly. I'm not really sure. I'd have to ask Marcia about that. But the idea that you need to be extra responsive to constituents, and you don't always have to agree with what people are kind of pushing you to do. And you can tell them, listen, this is why I'm not doing that. And as long as you have a good explanation, I think most people can rationalize it. But that was the great thing about Pat, I thought, was that she made me a better legislator going forward. When she beat me, I had to figure out why, and then I was able to come back and do that. And I drew a lot from her as to how to perform the job better. So I think it's a good example of somebody who has offered themselves up for public life, making the people around her better, even people that she may not agree with politically, and does bring people maybe a little bit closer to her side, or brings them into a conversation where maybe they were thinking a certain way, but were able to change course from both sides, actually, so that everybody in the room is actually heard. So I do appreciate Pat for that gift she gave.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. Mike Lane.
2 things. I've got to join in about Pat Pryor. Known her for a long time. I'm very impressed with her over the years. Back in 2000, seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? But there were 3 delegates to the Democratic National Convention at that time. Pat was one of them, Irene Stein was one of them, and I was one of them. And we went to Los Angeles, and I got to know Pat pretty well, talking with her back then. And she was very, very committed. She'd been a member of Common Council. She was very proud of the fact that she was the first openly gay member of Common Council. And I believe it was the same when she came on the legislature, although as Ann mentioned, we had Kathy Luz Herrera as well. She would take an issue and dive into it. And Mike, you mentioned about her constituent services. She was the very first person to get Joe Mariani to come out to Lansing to give his budget presentation to the folks out there, because she wanted them to understand in difficult times what our budget was about and how much it cost, and how we were trying to keep taxes down for folks. She wanted very much for equality. She fought for the amendment to our local law C, which added non-discrimination in employment and housing, added to that people who were transgender or questioning or other things. She had physical problems with her legs and hips. She went through a number of surgeries, always kept her balance and always came back from them. And she made this county better for her service, and I'm glad she did. And we'll miss her. And I would like to speak about one other thing, if I may.
Go ahead, Mike. Thank you for that, and go ahead.
The Historical Commission is very proud of the fact that it has now published its second pamphlet, and there's one on each of your desks here. And if you're not here physically, it'll be in your box tomorrow. Carol Kamen talked about it in her budget presentation. It's called Political Tompkins, and it is the second in this series. There are at least 3 other ones that are in process. So this commission has been very active about trying to preserve our history and look at particularly interesting topics. This one is written by Joe Mariani, our former county administrator. It's very well written. It's called Political Tompkins, Presidential Elections in Tompkins County Since 1828. And it's very readable. Some of the information that Joe has taken from the newspapers and other sources going back to 1828 is pretty interesting. And it's a page turner. I think you'll read it and like it. You'll see how the voting in Tompkins County has evolved and changed right up through 2020. So we're proud of our historical commission. We're proud of the authors that we're featuring in these pamphlets and the history of Tompkins County. So these are going to be available at the History Center for folks that would like to obtain a copy.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Well, let me just wrap and echo the similar sentiments to everyone that we do send on behalf of the entire county, legislature and the entire county, our condolences to Pat's family. She certainly will be missed. I met Pat in 1990 when I arrived in Ithaca, New York. And we worked together at Ithaca High School. She was the chair of the special ed department in which I worked. We didn't always see eye to eye, but it's certainly as a newbie, not only to the county and the city, but to the country, I certainly learned a lot how to navigate so many systems and things and barriers that often get put in your way. Many thanks to Pat. Also do want to acknowledge a lot of the work she did along with Rory Thorpe, Diane Sams, Di and others on the city of Ithaca in bringing forward, drafting, bringing forward and passing anti-hate legislation that went into our local charter and laws. So we want to thank Pat for her passion in that way. And again, send our condolences to her family. On that note, I also, it's going to roll right into a very brief kudos on the chair's report. We mentioned Peter Stein, and I hope that our third meeting, that, we're not doing this again. So no one else is allowed to die. Let's not have this happen. But I watched the news last night, the regional news last night, and was really very proud to once again see an entity in Tompkins County leading the way in the state, and that's Kendall of Ithaca, where Peter resided, for 100% of its residents and its staff vaccinated. It was quite a thing to see it on Channel 9 News. I was so excited to say, yay, I saw Tompkins County and my heart started to race, like, all right, what happened in Tompkins County? But then it was really good news. So big kudos to Kendall of Ithaca for leading the way and showing what we can do in Tompkins County. Let's see, we do have some staff, so why don't we look at the, are there any resolutions? I'm gonna go there to resolutions to be added or withdrawn from the agenda, and then we'll take up the consent agenda. Mike Lane.
I'd like to withdraw resolution F, Board of Contract Terminal Vendor.
Resolution F withdrawn from the agenda. Any other resolutions to be withdrawn or added? So if you'll indulge me, let's take up the consent agenda. These are resolutions and appointments to be voted on a group unless any member of the legislature requests that a resolution or appointment be instead included separately and individually as part of the business of a standing or special committee. There are no advisory board appointments, are there? Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. One advisory board appointment, and that's to the Tompkins County Youth Services Board. Leonardo Vargas Mendez, Town of Dryden representative, term expires December 31st of 2021. And then the resolutions on the consent agenda. Please yell out if you need anything pulled, because I'm not looking at. Resolution A on the Government Operations Committee, Resolution A, establishing standard work days for elected and appointed officials of Tompkins County, ID 10403. On the Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, Resolution B, adoption of Tompkins County Hazard Mitigation Plan, 2021 update, ID 10401. On the Housing and Economic Development Committee, Resolution C, authorization of New York State Department of Transportation Mass Transportation Capital Project Agreement, Tompkins County and TCAT Inc., K007463, ID 10405. On the Health and Human Services Committee, Resolution D, authorization to accept funds, execute contract, creation of positions, and budget adjustment for 2021.
I think that one needs to be pulled. I believe the Budget Committee amended that resolution today.
Okay. Budget Committee, you amended this resolution today, so it needs to be pulled from consent for your amendment.
Yeah, it was a very small amendment. It just clarifies that the grant was to Tompkins County, but I guess if that means it has to be pulled, it has to be pulled.
All right, we'll pull that one. And then on the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Resolution E, award of contract airport cafe bar gift shop Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID 10412. May I have someone move the consent agenda, please? Moved by Glenn Morey, seconded by Deb Dawson. Vote on the consent agenda.
Ann Foreman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury. Yes. Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Shill,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne,
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
that carries unanimously. Well, let's go back to our agenda. Is there anything else anybody's waiting for? That's the planning committee, Martha? Oh, broadband is waiting. Yes, we're waiting for that. Okay. All righty. Any of the ones that were pulled, anybody waiting for that? We can get those out of the way? No? Okay. Well, let's go to Housing and Economic Development Committee, Martha Robertson, Chair, for the resolutions.
Thanks very much, Leslin. Packet page 30, resolution I, document 10384. I move releasing municipal and school district contributions to the Tompkins County Broadband Study and replacing the other government's contributions to the county with the use of fund balance. I so move.
May I have a second, please? Seconded by Deborah Dawson. Discussion?
I can just say Nick Helmholtz is the champion of memos that explain everything. He's here if you have any questions, but this was just recognizing that we really wanted to go ahead and sort of, as it says, release the, be grateful. We were grateful for the contributions to the pledges for contributions by the municipalities and the school district for this study, but we felt it was okay for us just to go ahead on our own. So if anybody has questions, Nick is here.
All right. Thank you, Martha. I see no questions. Let's vote on the resolution.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Shill,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
That carries unanimously. Go ahead, Martha, next one.
Resolution J, document 10415, repurposing funds for a countywide physical survey of fixed broadband. I so move.
May I have a second, please? Second by Henry Granison. Discussion?
And this was,
Dan, hold on. Go ahead, Martha.
yeah, okay, thank you. There was a memo in the housing, I want to thank the Housing Economic Development Committee meeting, members for meeting an extra meeting this morning on this topic and to pass the resolution. There was a 5-page memo which really explained the issue very well, memo by Nick. And I sent that to legislators who weren't on the committee, sent that today. So I hope people had a chance to read it. I think there are a lot of misunderstandings about what this is all about. And maybe it'd be best if you don't mind Nick explaining, doing a summary as he did at the meeting this morning, which was really helpful.
Sure thing, Martha. Thanks for the introduction there. I can give you a little background on how we got here and what's in the memo. So just to kind of rewind as far back as last year, the broadband study was incorporated as an over target request in the 2021 budget. We entered into an agreement with Southern Tier Network and Fujitsu to begin the broadband study and got our first deliverable in that study in June, which was the market analysis portion. It's the first of 4 portions of that study. When we got that piece of the data, it really did cause some, we'll say, just cause us to take a step back and think about like what other options we might want to explore with regard to this issue for a couple of reasons. One is that it identified a very small number of homes that were unserved in the county. Depending on what you include in that, it's between 200 and 400 homes. as to, there's some grants eligibility questions there. The other concern was really the cost of the project and the timing of the effectiveness of what would be happening. With the middle mile solution, what we were looking at was building a pretty advanced piece of infrastructure that would, allow other internet service providers to expand service into these unserved areas, but ultimately would not connect individual homes to broadband, not a last mile service option for the homes who need it. And in reviewing that, we decided we would begin, number one, pause the study just to take a step back from it. And number two, start discussing with the existing internet service providers that currently operate broadband networks in the county to see if there was interest in expanding into those areas. Those conversations were positive. We learned from those conversations that there was interest. And as you already saw with the proposal, that was a very quick turnaround item from Point Broadband, that there's willingness and an ability for us to kind of move in that direction. So with that in hand, I went back to HED and we said, these are the options we see for going forward. Option one is to resume the Southern Tier Network and Fujitsu study and continue down that path. Option two would be to stop that study. And the next two steps of that would be to develop a physical survey of the broadband coverage within the county. This would be a literal driving survey of every street where we know where broadband endpoints exist, and to map out those spots. One of the big shortcomings we had with the data that we had from the SDN Fujitsu study was that it was not granular enough. We didn't know where all the gaps were in the county. So that 200 to 400 household number that I quoted earlier was a pretty well-known underestimate of the number of houses that were served. And then with that data in hand, with that map in hand, enter into pretty negotiations with the internet service providers that are currently operating within the county to get agreements with them in place to expand their networks into those unserved areas and be able to provide coverage to every residential address in the county. This we believe would be a faster approach. I think that was the opinion from the HED meeting at the end of September. So to that effect, we drafted a memo and resolution to move in that direction. The final approach that we also outlined, just for the sake of we'll say completeness, was to consider a different solution altogether, which would be looking at municipal broadband, which is more in line with what you may have heard is happening in the town of Dryden. And this would address some of the other issues that we hear about a lot with broadband, relating to price, reliability, customer service, and being able to serve constituents in different ways. Those are all, I think, really valid and important issues that I think all of us every day deal with in our homes and our businesses. But our ability to deal with it as a government is really going to take a different approach than the two other directions I've discussed so far. So we have sort of a choice here. I don't envy the trade-offs that I think this group is facing tonight. These are not easy decisions, and I think there are some important questions to discuss here. So, Martha, I hope that is satisfactory.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. Appreciate that. And I just wanted to add that for all the people who wrote emails in today, and Mark Whitmer, who came to our committee meeting as well as to the tonight to public comment, we've been struggling, as somebody said about that Pat Pryor 10 years ago was working on this issue. I mean, we've been paying attention to the issue of rural broadband for years. There's one of the misconceptions is that the American Rescue Plan is going to save us. I will say that in one of the meetings that we had with Fujitsu over the summer, they were very reluctant to say, well, what would it really cost to do that middle mile backbone? But it's clear it would have cost most of our entire American Rescue Plan allocation. They were very hesitant, but my notes here, I've got $15 million is what they said, just to build the middle mile. And that wouldn't connect anybody. All that would have done or would do would be to make it a little cheaper, somewhat cheaper for an ISP to come along and extend the last mile. So given the fact that staff time is a finite commodity, if we were to do the Fujitsu study, finish the Fujitsu study, as some people would like, that will take staff time away from other things and will absolutely take staff time away from getting this physical survey done. The idea for the physical survey came from TCOG, came from the TCOG Broadband Committee, which had the experience that I think it was Newfield and Lansing went ahead and had these physical surveys done, and they were able to provide much more accurate information about who didn't have service very quickly, relatively inexpensively. So basically HED kind of said, well, that seems like the best way to go. So that's where, after several meetings now discussing this, that's where we came out in September and in this morning's meeting as well. So I just wanted to make people really understand, anybody who's listening to us, and I'll follow up with emails tonight. Finishing the Fujitsu study will take away time, attention, and money from doing the physical survey, which is the fastest way to actually connect people with broadband. So that is really our goal.
All right, thank you, Martha. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Katie. I see you there. Other discussion? Dan, I saw your hand earlier. Go ahead.
Thank you. We heard from Mark Whitmer, the Town of Caroline Supervisor, earlier this evening, who said it is worth taking additional time to see completion of the Fujitsu study. We also received a number of emails today. We received an email from the supervisor of the town of Newfield, Michael Allinger, who said, I applaud the county for taking a leadership role in this project. I urge you to see the process through. We heard from an elected official, board member, John Freisha from the town of Caroline. As a council member in the town of Caroline, universal broadband was one of the reasons that I ran for office. He goes on to say, the hopes of our community were bolstered when the county legislature began this study, and it troubles me to learn that those hopes may soon be dashed. As we all know, universal electrification was a game changer and lifted millions out of poverty. Universal broadband is of equal importance and potential. I don't believe that it is your intent to perpetuate an equity gap, but the slimmed down plan that is being proposed creates that very situation. Please continue with the study. Tim Murray, council member from the town of Caroline. I concur that the town should continue with the Fujitsu study on broadband. We need to understand options as fully as possible. Cal Snow, town of Caroline board member. Yes, continue the Fujitsu study on the broadband coverage for all Tompkins County. Catherine Goldberg, councilperson from the town of Caroline. I am writing to support continuation of the Fujitsu study related to broadband access in Tompkins County. I am advocating for leaving options open with the goal of serving our community as completely and efficiently as possible. Remaining involved in this study is one means to this end, which I would not like to see terminated prematurely. Then we heard from a number of residents. I'm not going to name them by name. I'm just going to quote from a few of their emails. Quote, I have a consulting business and often have to go to Brooklands Market or the Caroline Town Hall and sit in the parking lot to do work. Another resident wrote, we need a study that will explore all the possible options to make this happen. Another resident wrote, please reconsider your decision and move forward with solutions, even if they are not perfect. Another resident wrote, I strongly urge you to vote to continue with the study and use the money already allocated for this purpose. Another resident wrote, there were many times since the pandemic started when we piled our whole family into the car to drive to a nearby location where we had a Wi-Fi signal so we could set up mobile hotspots and continue attending school and work. From another resident, I am asking that you vote to continue the study and represent the needs of your constituents that are still living in a near dial-up world. I am a professor at Ithaca College and I am unable to reliably participate in mandatory Zoom sessions because of my internet. I have to drive to regional cafes and sit outside in my car within range of the Wi-Fi to conduct important meetings and classes. Another resident writes, please do everything you can bring us to the internet speeds we need to live life in a high-speed world. Another resident writes, we were heartened to see the county's initiative that was passed in 2020 unanimously by a 14-0 vote to identify broadband gaps and work with the Southern Tier network on a plan. And now it appears that this too is in jeopardy. Another resident wrote to us, we need not just a map of unserved homes, but also a plan for bringing broadband to these homes. The emails we received today are a small, quick sample of how our residents and elected officials feel about the lack of broadband in some areas of our county. I truly don't think there is any single issue that I hear more about other than more than broadband. And I believe that my colleagues on the town boards in Danby, Caroline, and Newfield would probably agree. I had limited time and was only able to reach a small section of my constituents in time for tonight's vote. Ironically, I had to rely on the internet to try to reach those whose access to the internet is limited. Can we agree that access to broadband internet is essential for work, school, business, telehealth, and other aspects of modern life? If so, shouldn't we look for a way to help provide this essential service for everyone in the county? We have two ideas on the table right now of how to address this issue. One is the Fujitsu study, and the other is the physical survey of broadband service. The cost to do both is in the $100,000 range, and doing both is better. I do not know if either of these approaches to solving the broadband access problem will provide all the answers. But don't we owe it to our residents to at least try? I don't think there is a compelling reason to cancel the Fujitsu study, which has already been budgeted a year ago and passed by this legislature unanimously. Without a compelling reason to cancel it, let's not. Let's instead add to it by also doing a physical survey. Doing both is better. I would like to move an amendment to this resolution to substitute the wording that was provided to all legislators in advance. The title of the new resolution would be allocating funds for a countywide physical survey of fixed broadband.
Substitute resolution, which you all should have received, moved by legislator Dan Klein. Is there a second to the substitute? Mike Lane? Oh, sorry, Amanda, I wasn't sure if you had your hand up to speak or to second. Okay. Discussion. Amanda?
Well, I just wanted to well, I had something to say otherwise, but on this amendment, I just wanted to clarify, I did get the email with the language, and does that completely replace the resolution that's in our packets?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
All right. Leslie.
Thanks. I would just like to hear from Nick Hemholt about the idea there put forward at the end that doing both being an option. He had a little to share this morning at HED committee, and I thought that was helpful for me to understand. So I thought it might be helpful for others.
Sure, I can chime in on that. So I think there's two constraints here we should be aware of. One is staff time and capacity to operate both an existing consulting arrangement and conduct a study. This simply is, I think, not within our budgeted work plan for our for where we're at right now. It certainly was not included in my work plan. So we have to. That's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is that they really are kind of two different approaches, and doing them simultaneously presents some challenges. the Southern True Network Fujitsu approach really relies on having some unserved households available to build out this network too. If we are simultaneously incentivizing existing service providers to expand their networks, we're reducing that overall market of unserved homes for ISPs to build to. So the approaches would have to be sequenced, done sequentially. And I think we've Katie and myself and have been kind of looking at the timeline of what that might look like, you know, just to kind of sketch it out here as we've been trying to understand the debate going forward. And I think what we'd be looking at for the Fujitsu study is roughly 3 to 4 months to complete that effort. And if at that point we decide that we don't want to move forward with the middle mile approach, then we could go ahead and move forward with the physical survey. But I would advise against doing them both at the same time for both the reasons that I think I've just mentioned there. Yeah, I should say that would just be the kickoff of the physical survey. So we have to issue an RFP, find a vendor to do that, get the survey done, and then reach back out to all of our ISPs to get fresh pricing from them of where they're at for the expansions. So probably wouldn't have any real progress. It would basically push out everything 9 to 12 months if we go that direction.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Let's take a couple more comments and then let's vote on this amendment. Let's see, whose hand did I see? Deborah Dawson and Henry Granison, Amanda Champion, and Martha Robertson.
Yeah, I don't have something that's specifically addressed to the proposed amendment. I just have a general observation. Would you like me to hold off on this then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just call on me later.
Henry, to the amendment, it's on the floor.
Yes, I'm not going to support the amendment because I feel like finishing the study does not really give us that much of a benefit. But Nick, and maybe Katie too, would it be possible to in fact go back like in 6 months if we needed to go back to ask the study be completed later on?
I'll answer that, Nick. Yes, of course, you could try to negotiate a new contract with them. Yes.
Okay, well then that also seals it for me, because if we do the physical map approach, which would still put us in a place that we would need ISPs to bid on the housing, then we could always, if we needed pricing, we could always get the study finished. And so I don't see the need to, I see the need to only do one, and it makes sense to do the physical mapping. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Amanda.
Thanks. 2 thoughts. Well, 1 question. So if this amendment, which is really a substitution, does not pass tonight, the legislature will have to have a similar resolution at some point in the future, right? To commission this physical study, or is somebody already doing the physical study? Or the planning department will just say, we're going to do that.
Nobody's doing the physical study presently.
Okay. So you would need direction from the legislature to actually do that.
But that's the resolution you're considering tonight.
Okay. Well, then
there are a lot of broadband resolutions tonight. It is a little confusing.
Okay. So I thought the resolution that Dan is trying to substitute was about canceling the Fujitsu study.
No, Dan's resolution has to do with continuing the Fujitsu study.
Right. No, the original one was about canceling the Fujitsu study, right?
And repurposing that money to do the physical study.
Right.
Okay, so that, I guess I missed that that was in there, but that's at the end. Okay.
That's the first resolved.
So then I guess my other comment, thanks for clarifying that. Then my other comment is that, you know, we all know that this is a problem, and we all know that people need broadband, and there's just obviously a disagreement on how to get to a place where everybody in the county can have service. So it seems to me like we would want to just throw everything at it. I mean, people want to throw everything at all these other endeavors. So let's do both. And if that means we do one study now and that pushes the next one out for a couple months, then let's do that one in a couple months. And then if we need another one in a couple months after that, then let's do that. I don't, maybe this is just me being cynical, but I don't honestly think any of this is going to get us anywhere any faster. I don't think one is going to be a miracle and the other one is not. So I don't know. We committed to doing it. Let's do it. And let's do the physical study. That's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. I love dialogue. I love conversation because often you hear new stuff, but let's move it along as quickly as we can. Martha.
Thank you. I heard Dan say that both studies, the physical survey and the Fujitsu, would be in the neighborhood of 100,000, which sounded like 100,000 each. And Nick just confirmed in the chat, the physical survey is estimated to cost 15,000 to 25,000. The Fujitsu is, I don't know, we have something like 50, maybe it's in here.
The contract for the Fujitsu study, the total is just under 80,000.
And we think we have, if we cancel that now, we'd have, this is also in the resolution, we would have 35,608 uncommitted. So that's one clarification. On the physical survey, this may be a weird question, but if there's snow on the ground, will it be harder for them to see the physical connections at each house? Or is this about what's on the wires?
Primarily aerial installation is expected to be yeah, there are some underground areas. There are things that are observable. Even, I mean, unless we have 3 feet of snow, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Okay.
So there may be delays, but I don't think it'll be achievable.
Okay. And if I saw Dan's posting on Facebook saying that a map is not a plan. Nick, at HED today, you pointed out that if we get the physical survey that'll map the whole county, then what would be the plan after that? If you could clarify, you
Sure,
mentioned.
I can clarify. Yeah, so the next step with that would be to reach out to each of the ISPs who have networks adjacent to those areas, which we already know who those are. Ask them to prepare pricing for how to expand their networks into those areas, and provide a map as well of where those areas they would be expanding into would be. We compare those several maps together, see if there are gaps left over from our physical survey, continue to pressure, push, nudge those internet service providers to reach all those homes, and develop proposals that would do so. So yeah, that would be the next step.
So much more certainty in doing that, and really not anything gained in my mind to doing the Fujitsu. To be clear, this substitute resolution would require us to try to keep Fujitsu hanging out on the line as well, or move forward. I mean, you've told us in committee that they would, we've already paused the study longer than they've ever paused a study before. Either we cancel it or they are going to go ahead with it. So your job would then become, you'd have to manage both studies at the same time.
That resolution does not say that, Martha. There's no
I mean,
wording there.
that's the practical, if the Fujitsu study doesn't get canceled, it has to go ahead, or else, I mean, it has to go ahead. Right, Nick?
Right. I think there's just a practical limitation of the hours we have available to do that. So it would just mean that the physical survey would be delayed until the Fujitsu study is completed.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick.
All right, I have Mike Lane, Rich John, Mike Sigler, and then Deborah.
I'm going to support the amendment. I think what we've heard from the people who are the leaders of the towns that so much need this broadband service is pretty important. Yeah, my own town is going a different direction, may have a different opinion about how to proceed with broadband for the full county. But I think we've got to listen to the folks from Caroline, from Newfield, for example. We've heard from their supervisors and town board people. And I think we ought to complete the study.
Thank you, Mike. Rich John?
I represent a city district, so I'm cognizant that the broadband issues are different outside of the city. I did vote for the original resolution. I agree that broadband is really important, but at the same time, I have to admit to being a little bit confused on the paying back the contributions that the towns were going to make. And now we're talking about an amendment that would add to what we have already committed to do. The language of let's just keep throwing money at it scares me a little bit. So I'm not going to support the amendment. I would support the physical survey at this time, and perhaps if some continuation of Fujitsu in the future makes sense, let's talk about it then. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Mike Sigler. Mike Sigler?
Hi, my internet's kind of wonky right now, so if you can't hear me, just let me know. It just seems to me the study has, that the way forward would be who doesn't have broadband access. Okay.
Turn off your video, Mike.
Who's going to now come and build broadband access to you? I don't know. I got emails from people. It's not, everybody's laughing, so I'm assuming my internet is not very good right now.
Turn off your
I'll
camera.
pause. Go to the next person. Turn off my
I
camera.
thought you were demonstrating.
All right.
That's all right. Sorry, Mike, it was really
see.
hard to hear you.
I know, right?
Deborah.
There, I've turned off my camera. It's all right.
Okay, try it again then. Mike Sigler.
All right, is that any better?
Yeah.
It's not better. Okay, you guys are all still frozen on my screen, so. I'm just saying, I think we're overcomplicating it. I think that if people don't have, we got a lot of email from people out in Dan's district that says, listen, I don't have good broadband internet. Okay, well, let's spend our money on getting them connected. I don't know if we need further study on that. Just tell us you don't have it and we're going to come and build it. Or we're going to send an RFP out to get it built. I guess I don't know why we're waiting another months and months to get this done. So.
Good point.
And
I'm glad you turned off your camera so we could hear that.
Yes, well, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Oh my goodness, I see more hands now. All right, I do. Katie, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I wanted to make one point. One reason we paused the Fujitsu study is because we received a lot of criticism about the Fujitsu study. They had to use data that the FCC provided that nobody thinks is great data, but that's the data that this study will be founded on. The next two deliverables will still be using that information. And I do want to clarify as well that we're really just talking about building out a network kind of along the southern section of the county. It's not the entire county looking at middle mile. It's just a limited geography within the county. And the next deliverables will be costing out, exactly what the fiber would cost and how many miles and what the connections would look like. So it's a lot of details around that aspect of the study. So I just wanted to clarify that part of it.
Thank you, Katie. Deborah and then Annie. And then let's take this to a vote.
Thank you, Leslyn. I will be voting against this amendment. I listened carefully to the HED meeting videos. I read Nick's very excellent memo, and I want to thank Nick for his efforts on this issue because I know that that broadband is not his specialty, and he's done a lot of work on this. As I understand it from the memo in the meetings, finishing this Fujitsu study is not going to get internet to anybody who needs it. It will build the middle mile, or at least give us a plan to build the middle mile and explain to us how many tens of millions of dollars that's going to cost. We are still going to be in a position where we have to negotiate with ISPs to get that last mile built. And unless and until we can make it financially viable to them via additional expenditures of county or other government money, they're not going to build that. So this study is not the road to getting internet to all of these people who don't have it. It's one way to go. The granular house by house study is another way to go. And frankly, a better one, in my opinion. If somebody said earlier, a map's not a plan, a map of where you could put middle mile, cable isn't a plan either. I mean, knowing where you're trying to get to seems to me to be the best place to start if you want to get there. And this raises a point that I'm really kind of upset about, and that is that the communications we received from the town supervisors and from residents of the town suggest to me that people feel that by not completing this study, we're abandoning them. We're not committed to getting them internet, and that is simply not the case. There's more than one way to get there. What we're debating tonight is what's the best way and the most cost-effective way and the quickest way to get those houses hooked up. I can't see wasting money on a study that these very same people complained about not 2 or 3 months ago and didn't want to pay for. There's a better, more targeted way to get where we want to go, and that is the resolution that was originally in our agendas, the resolution that was passed this morning in HED. So thanks for hearing me out.
Okay, I thought I was closer to a vote. Annie, haven't heard your voice, so go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. First, I have a question that if the Fujitsu survey or study was paused and continued to be paused, would we be able to go back in 6 months or a year and tell them to go ahead and finish the study, or would we have to start all over?
I suspect we'd pretty much be starting from scratch at that point. They'd have to look at all the data from FCC would be updated by then. So the base of what they've worked off to date would be not necessarily totally useless, but outdated. We may get a coupon, but I don't think we're not going to start from where we are.
Okay, so I'm leaning towards supporting continuing with with that study. That's hard for me to say the name of, but and in support of the substitute resolution, because I'm just not feeling comfortable in telling the residents of Tompkins County that we were in the middle of a study that possibly could have helped. Some people are saying, they don't think it can help, but if we can do we can still do the next step. I wish we could do the physical survey at the same time, but I understand that's not possible. But so we start that in a few months or so. I'd rather do both things and then see what happens. I don't think we have a firm idea. We don't know that both of these things are going to be collecting information. So I'd feel better just having that information before we move on and make our decisions on what to do.
All right, thank you, Annie. I didn't hear from Dave McKenna. Dave, let me hear your voice and then I'll hear Leslie.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that this is sort of the same thing that Pat and I ran into back on the original broadband study. And the FAA data is just no good, okay? It's not definitive. It doesn't give you good information. So I'm strongly against continuing with the Fujitsu study. I think the survey is a far better plan, and I'll be supporting that. And I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Dave. Leslie.
Thanks. To Dave's point, and I just wanted to bring up Katie, reflecting on Katie's information that she shared. It was revealed and pretty frankly from some of the stakeholders in this study that there was decent bit of dissatisfaction with what was coming out of the study, and it was based on some the concerns, right? And so continuing with it, what I'm most concerned is that we'll get a study, we can complete a study, but many of the people that have taken the time today to send in messages and say, I have real concerns, real struggles connecting to the internet for me, for my kids, to run my business. We've heard a lot of and stakeholders all around the county today who've emailed the legislature, and I really appreciate their voices. I'm not sure this study is going to help them at all, because something we learned, or that we at least heard, was the initial data is kind of being deemed to greatly be undercounting some of our most rural households and places, and we don't think that they've been captured. So at the end of the study, I don't think they're going to be captured. We're not going to be able to get some of the folks that are really telling us about they've got worst case scenario, no coverage for a couple hours a day. Like, I want to make sure if we're going to spend the money over the long term to invest in critical infrastructure, that we actually get it there. So it's got to be based on real-time data. And the only way to do that is to go out and ground truth it and map it and make sure that we've got good information going in so that we get great service going out. Thank you.
Thank you. And since this is Dan's substitute, I'm going to give Dan the absolute last word. Go ahead, Dan.
First of all, Mike Stigler, you said, let's just get it built. I wasn't sure if you were speaking for or against the amendment. Because the Fujitsu study is the one to actually get it built. So I hope that was a meaning you were going to vote for it. I just wanted to say that I'm surprised at the amount of speculation about the outcome of the Fujitsu study, when in fact the Fujitsu study has not been completed. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Fujitsu study. I don't understand why everyone thinks they do know what's going to happen with the Fujitsu study. And I, again, feel like we owe it to our residents to at least see it through and see what happens. Maybe it won't be helpful. Maybe it will. My final thing I wanted to say, take a look at what just happened in Newfield. They hired perhaps the same person we would hire to do a physical survey. It did not take 9 to 12 months. It took about, a few weeks. It was very quick and easy, and they reported the data, and very quickly, some action was taken based on that data. It did not take 9 to 12 months to do it. It took literally a matter of weeks. And what they did with that data was very instructive. A private company, took the easiest houses that were identified in that physical survey, asked for some county money to subsidize it, and now they're going to be paid customers. My question to everybody, if you're relying on just a physical survey, is what about all the other homes in Newfield that were not grabbed by that private internet service provider? How are they going to get broadband internet? What is the county's plan to provide broadband internet to the rest of the unserved homes in Newfield? I'll give you the answer. We do not have a plan. That's what I mean when I say a map is not a plan. What that physical survey did was showed which houses in Newfield don't have internet. And now there are still a bunch of houses in Newfield that don't have internet, and we do not have a plan to get there. That's why relying on just one method alone is not the best way forward. Let's do both. There's not a compelling reason to exit from the Fujitsu study. There's speculation. That is not a compelling reason in my mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. All right, let's vote on the substitute.
Can you clarify, Leslie, this goes, a vote yes puts Dan's motion on the floor, correct?
If you
And the
vote
idea-
yes for this amendment or substitute resolution that Dan is proposing, it becomes, this will be the main motion. It'll be on the floor. This is what we'll be voting on. It will take the place of what came out of committee.
Thank you.
All right, let's vote.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
No.
Glenn Maury,
No.
Martha Robertson,
No.
Leslie Show,
No.
Mike Sigler,
No.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
No.
Henry Grandison,
Henry?
No.
Rich John,
No.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne.
No.
We have 5 ayes, 9 noes.
Okay. That fails. Now we're back to the main motion, and we've talked it out already. We heard from Nick, we heard from Katie. Are we ready to vote? Wonderful. Let's vote.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
No.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Oh, I don't see her. Go ahead.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
No.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
No.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne, Martha Robertson,
I'm sorry, I lost power momentarily. What are we voting on?
We're voting on the
Your
resolution
motion.
that came out of committee.
So a yes supports what came out of committee.
Correct.
Sorry about that. I'm a yes.
with 11 ayes, 3 noes.
That carries. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for that, Martha, from your committee, those resolutions. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Katie. Are there any other resolutions that we have staff waiting for? I don't see anything. Let's go very quickly back to the top of our agenda for some quick reports. County Administrator, County Attorney, and Director of Finance. County Administrator, Lisa Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have some quick updates. And first, if you don't mind, I would like to just say a quick word about Pat Pryor as well. I
Yes,
worked worked with Pat for many years on a working group on LGBT aging, on which she volunteered. We worked together collecting the oral histories of older adults in the LGBT community locally. So I worked with Pat for many years on that project, and I also had the privilege of collecting her oral history and hearing about her activist work as a teacher who is openly gay, as well as her work on local Law C. And that collection of oral histories, including hers, as well as many others, are now archived at the Human Sexuality Archives at Cornell, just for people's interest. So she will be greatly missed. As for the county admin updates, very briefly, just wanted to give a couple of updates about the airport. Our airport director, Mike Hall, as you know, retired at the end of September, and we thank him for his service and leadership to the community in the airport. Roxanne Noble is now serving as the interim director until a new director is appointed. The search process for the airport director is currently underway, and interviews started today. And I wanted to thank Ann Corman for serving on that interview panel, along with several department heads and members of the Air Services Board and community members. So we'll be keeping you all updated as that progresses. And then in other news, we have a brief update on reimagining public safety, as well as a COVID update tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Deanna and Dominic for the reimagining public safety update.
Good evening, everyone. We know you've had a very spirited debate, so we'll make this brief, but also I'll speak slow enough so that Deborah will appreciate what it is that I am trying to say.
Thank you, Deanna.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. So I just want to call attention to some of the art that this represents the history and the beautiful work that is happening in our communities. This work has all been done, or murals painted by people of color. And so I'd like to thank Dominic off the bat by saying each one of these presentations will be uniquely configured. We appreciate all of the work and all the artists who have reached out, actually taking pictures before we get started. But again, the work belongs to all of us. And so we'll get started. And I also like to thank my colleague, Shelley Michelle Nunn, for being here as well, because the most common question I receive at this point is about the City of Ithaca redesign. So our charge is Executive Order 203. We are looking at, we have done our work in terms of assessment of the initial assessment of our public safety system. And we are looking to forge ahead and implement the joint plan centering communities of color. In April of this year, or I guess March 30th and March 31st, Common Council and the Legislature passed joint plans. And so this is why we're here to, again, provide that monthly update. These plans are inclusive of the collaborative, and then also part of our charge is to create the Community Justice Center. So where are we in terms of Community Justice Center? Both of the searches for the project director and the data analyst closed on September 24th. The screening committee of myself, Shelley Michelle Nunn, Larry Workman, and Ruby Pulliam have reviewed the applications, and we're in the process of conducting phone screenings. And so I'll keep it there. I'll try to keep as briefly as possible, knowing that we actually have active folks in our community and all over the country who are involved in the process and don't want to say too much about those, but knowing that the actual in-person interviews will be inclusive of our city and county elected officials and community members. And also there will be Q&A sessions for department heads and, again, community members. Another exciting development is that we launched the subcommittee for the CJC Advisory Board development process. Again, knowing that is a 6-month commitment, and we'd like to thank Legislator Black and Legislator John for their service on behalf of Tompkins County to the process. Their partners on Common Council are Cynthia Brock and Laura Lewis. Also, that also includes a couple of community members, including Dr. Ian Needy and another community member that we're waiting on final confirmation of. So we've reached out to a couple of folks in that endeavor. Also, we have support from Center for Policing Equity, Dr. Tracy Kazee and Sean Eldridge. Both are people of color who also have significant law enforcement experience. And so they met for the first time last week and reviewed the charge of the advisory subcommittee, asked questions around what we currently have, reviewing current policies and procedures on behalf of the city and the county. We're taking a look at CJTI and looking at overall operations of how the advisory board between, again, both the city and the county, looking for a new board, but also looking for opportunities to create efficiencies within our current structure as well, knowing that we have a lot of folks thinking about this work in various places, and so we don't want to duplicate efforts if we don't have to. So we know that this work will be done no later than March 2022. So progress update. I would like to thank Dominic again and Shelley. We've translated all of the plan documents in 6 languages. We'll be coming back to you, as you saw with the LEP process, or our LAP process, is the language access process, knowing that there's been significant outreach from folks where their English is not the first language. And so we've had the plans translated, knowing that as we move forward, there are questions from folks. We want to have them included in the process. I think George referenced earlier, there is a city forum on October 7th that will feature Eric Rosario and Karen Newwood, who are the co-leads for the City of Ithaca redesign process, knowing that if questions arise about the collaborative or joint plans, we will be in the background to address those. The City of Ithaca working group continues to convene to discuss call delineation. And then also last week, we had a technical advisors kickoff that also included work for the collaborative as well. So it was really fantastic to have Lisa's support and the mayor's support in the process, where we had both IT departments, both law enforcement departments, Les the sheriff, who was actually at the one of the Black Law Enforcement Officers Association conference. We also had folks from our mental health department. So it was just quite the large group, but also, again, level setting some of the work that is happening. So we thank our department heads for their attention to this work, and we really appreciate all of their efforts in advance. As we continue to move forward, we're encouraging use of the website. We met with the Human Services Coalition recently, and we also met with the county, the advisory board for the Office of the Aging. We will be hosting some forums for the Office of the Aging to specifically spend time with some of our elderly population and helping them learn to use the website and engage in some of the process. So we are speaking to as many groups as we possibly can. And anybody who has an invitation for us to speak, we try to go and then again uplift the website and also the ideas, ask people to present ideas. In addition to the website and engagement tool, I'd like to thank Dominic for his work in starting the launch of the email newsletter. Reimagining Public Safety is one of the many options for people to choose. And again, to the myriad presentations that we're doing. Next month, we will also be coming to you to share the launch of additional joint plans, knowing that we have to do some additional level setting. For example, we are anticipating the launch of the pilot program pending budget approval for non-emergency calls with the sheriff's office. And so we want to having some conversations around some of those things. Again, there's the planning study that's also included, the community healing plan, the alternative response for wraparound services. So some of these things will be coming up in the next month. Also, we will also come to you next month with a final recommendation in terms of the location for the CJC, knowing that the hiring process is underway. We will also hopefully have the contract completed for professional services with the city as well. And we appreciate Jonathan for his efforts in helping us move that process along as well. With that, the next thing, we just wanted again to affirm a part of our process is that many of you have sat through many budget meetings. And so a lot of the community always asks, what are we doing? And so I love Deborah's smile as she's led all of those meetings. The City of Ithaca, in terms of joint plans, is to $377,666. That is those are just the joint plans. That does not include all of the additional costs that will be incurred from the redesign process. Because it's such a robust recommendation, there is not a dollar amount assigned at this point, knowing that it's going to cost well above that amount. Tompkins County, again, $605,600, and this cost you see here is higher due to the pilot program for non-emergency calls in the sheriff's office. That particular cost is around $238,000, and that was communicated in more detail during the sheriff's presentation. So again, we thank you for your time, but we also think it's important to share this budget slide, even though we know most of you have been in all of these presentations, but it's important for this space to share with the community what you are hearing and what you are doing. So thank you for your time and in this presentation. And I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Deanna. Are there any questions? Martha?
Thank you, Deanna. That was nice and moderate on the speed. Did you say, I missed when the forum is at the city? That's October 7th. What time?
It's at 6 o'clock, I believe. We will also, Don, will you confirm that's correct? I believe 6 o'clock.
Yes, it is at 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay,
And also,
so people can go there and then come to our budget forum at 7.
That's what we're hoping.
that is the goal. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Shelley. I see Shelley there. Thank you, Dom, Rich, Shauna, everyone for your continued work on this. All right, we look forward to hearing more. All right, let's move on. I think next is our COVID report. Is that right, Lisa? All right.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I'm turning it over to Amy and Frank.
All right. Can you guys hear me at this point? My screen just disappeared.
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. So we'll get started with our COVID update. This week, I am happy to report that our active cases are down, I believe, since the last time we met. Our hospitalizations have remained pretty consistent between the 5 and 10 range. We continue to monitor that. A couple things that have happened, you know, in the executive order realm, the governor has made some announcements addressing the healthcare staffing shortages and discussing that a little bit more. There's been a few interviews that we've had talking about a variety of things like Cornell has returned to the green level. We have launched our mandatory staff vaccination and testing program. Today was the first day that program launched with the surveillance testing. We onboarded 2 new additional staff who are supporting that program. And it will be a learning experience. As you can imagine, the first day of a program is always a challenge, but I think we'll be getting there very quickly. Other important.
Excuse me, Amy, sorry. I don't think your slide has advanced from the first. We're still seeing the first slide.
Amy, you're not in presentation mode.
Okay. Hold on just a second. It's presenting on my computer, but because I have multiple slides, we're doing a little guessing here. So just a second and I will reshare the screen. Do you now see it in presentation mode?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So there we go. Moving on. So the other piece is the booster information, and we are having upcoming booster dose clinics. An announcement went out today, and Frank can update us a little bit more when I turn this over to him very shortly about boosters and their availability in the community. And I think here is important that we highlight that our communications continue to remind people of all the different precautions related to COVID-19. I know that many people are getting very tired. If they haven't already been tired and exhausted, I think they continue to be. So we want to continue to put it out there, though, that the mask advisory does remain in effect, encouraging everyone to wear a mask while indoors and around others, regardless of that vaccination status. Vaccines are still readily available, and getting tested if people are symptomatic or a close contact of a positive case And then the final piece we've added in is receive a booster shot when you're eligible. I did hear from a couple individuals today as our booster shot announcement came out that said, should I get it? I'm eligible, but I want to make sure those who are really eligible should get it. And I think our message is, if you're eligible and it's available, go ahead and get that booster dose. It is not the same as the first time where we had to wait on getting those vaccines. So continue to do that. The next slide talks a little bit about our COVID-19 hours. There has been a slight change. So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act ended on September 30th. As of the 1st of October, there is a New York State sick leave, which provides 14 days of paid sick leave for employees who are under an isolation or quarantine order. So that has shifted slightly, and we've communicated that with all of our employees. Additional COVID-related expenses, there's a small increase since the last time. There'll be a larger increase next time due to surveillance testing, but the small increase is related to all of the staff that we have brought on at the health department to continue to have that COVID response team. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Frank to talk about boosters.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I think Amy covered most of it. We are doing clinics this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I will share that we put out 450 appointment slots this morning. The less than 300 of them are currently filled. So we're gauging demand at this point. We initially had planned to do 900 over the 3 days, but in consultation with my colleagues around me that have started this a little bit sooner, we recognized we probably were oversizing what we needed. So we're going to see how this weekend goes. If there's continued demand, we will look to do the mall on future weekends. And also we have to start thinking about how we might get out to the rural parts of our county again. And of course, we're planning for the younger children when they become eligible. But I think the takeaway from this, Amy hit on it, is that if you are eligible, please seek out a vaccine. They are readily available in the community, either at pharmacies, at the mall site. You can talk to your healthcare provider, but vaccine is available. Next slide, Amy. Our data slides, this just shows that I think everybody has seen that our numbers are dropping, which is good news. We've come over that spike, and our numbers are, I think we're in the 130s at this point for active cases. So good news on the transmission front, particularly related to pre-K through 12. We're now a month into the school year. All of our districts, I believe at this point, have been touched with cases, but we're not seeing transmission in the schools that we can say is definitively transmission. I think we're seeing between 1 and 5 children, school-age children, each day. So it's still a relatively small number of cases, particularly having brought all of those kids back into in-person school. So that's really the good news so far. Vaccination status still is hovering around 50%. So of our cases, about 50% of them are fully vaccinated. So it's we're definitely going to be continuing to understand that the disease can be transmitted, and you can become positive with COVID even if you are vaccinated. But the hospitalization information that we have, at least here locally, and really across the state and country, is that fully vaccinated people are seeing, if they are becoming positive, are seeing significantly more minor symptoms and less hospitalization. So still very, very important to get vaccinated. We want everybody to do that. But we're still hovering around that 50% range. Vaccination progress continues to head up. I think some of the mandates are having a bit of an effect on that. We're still not seeing dramatic increases, but every vaccinated person helps us towards our goal. So we're going to continue to make sure vaccine is available and encourage people to seek it out when they can find it. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on, it does feel like, certainly outside of the health department, that focus is shifting as it should by a lot of other people to different things, trying to get back to normal. I just wanted to point out that at the health department, this COVID response is still a 7-day-a-week activity. We have staff there every day doing case investigations and contact tracing. They are the linchpin of our vaccination efforts in the county at this point as well. And we've continued to get support from other departments, community partners, and others that are still really, really focused on response to COVID. So I just wanted to thank all of them for that continued effort, and just remind the community that while yes, we're trying to get back to normal and move on, there are still people working every day to try to help limit the spread and keep our community as safe as it can be.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Frank. Are there any questions for Amy or Frank? Do I see a hand? I see Annie, and then I see Henry and Martha.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you for the report, Frank and Amy. I just wanted to clarify if I heard that. So third doses, they're available for folks who got the Moderna and Pfizer? No, just Pfizer?
So you said third doses, and I apologize.
I'm sorry, booster.
Boosters are only available for those that got Pfizer at this point. The third dose for immunocompromised is for Pfizer and Moderna, but there is a distinct difference between the two.
Okay. And those are both, if you're getting either of those, you can get either of those through the mall, is one of the places?
We are, yes. So you can come to the mall for your booster doses. We're not going to turn people away from first doses at the mall, but we won't have second dose clinics set up for them. So we're really encouraging them to seek out their pharmacy or their healthcare provider that will be better able to make sure that their second dose is available on schedule. But we're not going to turn people away.
Thank you.
All right, Henry, and then Martha.
Yes, thank you for your report. I know that that Kendall had 100% vaccination rate and the hospital had the mid-90s. Do you have any idea of the other nursing homes or the healthcare systems in the county and how they did in vaccination rates?
I don't. I know much of that has to be reported to the state, and they've been reporting those out in different places, but I do not know the vaccination status of those other organizations.
Also, I noticed that Apple Fest was this weekend, and I saw pictures from it, and there seemed to be lots of crowds without mask on. Did you guys have to approve Apple Fest, or did you have anything to do with it?
Not directly. We do permit some of the entities that serve their food and such. But as far as masking, it was an outdoor event. And we don't currently have a recommendation for outdoor events required to masking. Our recommendation is for indoor masking.
Okay, thanks.
And if I could just follow up on Annie's question, there will be no Moderna at the mall this weekend. We are focusing on Pfizer. So for folks that want either that third dose because they're immunocompromised or are eligible for the booster and had Pfizer, they can come to the mall. If you're looking for that third dose of Moderna, I check with your healthcare provider or your local pharmacy.
I'm sorry, Frank, I just need to repeat that. So I made sure I heard it. There's no Moderna third dose or booster at the mall site this weekend.
Correct.
Only Pfizer.
Correct.
Okay. But people can check with their healthcare provider if they want Moderna.
Yep.
And to be clear, get the Moderna.
And to be clear, Moderna has not been approved for booster doses, only for the third dose for immunocompromised individuals.
Thank you. Martha.
Sorry to ask this question, but I realize if I'm confused, other people are probably confused too. So if I got Pfizer, so can I get a booster at a pharmacy?
Yeah, I would call ahead just to make sure your particular pharmacy is doing boosters, but I'm pretty sure most all of them. I was in Kinney's today and they were announcing over the overhead that if you received your Pfizer dose 6 months ago, please stop by the pharmacy for your booster. So I'm pretty sure you can go into most pharmacies. I know Wegmans has advertised they're doing boosters. So just call ahead to make sure so you don't waste a trip, but there's definitely pharmacies available.
Okay, and then if you can help me understand, so is the shot itself different? Is the booster different from the first 2 shots? Or are they really the same?
No, it's the same dose. There is some talk about Moderna potentially as booster being a smaller dose, but that's still in the study phase. But for right now, the Pfizer booster and the 3rd dose for both Moderna and Pfizer is the same dose as the first 2 vaccines.
Okay, thank you very much. And just sort of a scientific question, is there any thought about that actually mixing and matching your first and your booster will provide sort of more diverse coverage, like better of different strains? Is there anything?
Yeah. It doesn't really work that way, but they are currently studying whether or not it would be okay that you would have sufficient, the same sufficient antibody development from a 3rd dose of a different vaccine. So Moderna or Pfizer, they're both the mRNA vaccine, so they act similarly. The question is, do they act similarly enough to get the same result with a 3rd booster? So I do think you're likely going to hear talk about that and may ultimately hear approval where you could get your 3rd dose of Pfizer if your first 2 were Moderna. But right now it's still under study.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank.
All right, I do want us to take a break, but I also want to make sure we just get our county attorney and finance director in. Is there anything else from you, Amy and Frank?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you all very much. Continued good work, much appreciated. Anything from county attorney or finance director?
No report, but I do want to thank people for the nice words about Pat Pryor, who I knew well and was a very nice woman and was always helpful and kind to me.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Rick Snyder?
I have no
finance director.
Hi. Good evening. I have no formal report tonight, but I did want you to know that we've been working and putting together a number of bond resolutions, and some of them you'll be looking at tonight, and they'll be coming forward to the legislature in the future. And that's been taking quite a bit of time. I also wanted to alert the legislature that we are about, even though we haven't posted all the contingent fund resolutions right up to date, we are basically out of money in the contingent fund. So as I said before, to the legislature and the county administration, we will need to process a forthcoming resolution to provide more funding to the contingent fund. I wrote to Lisa Holmes today, and we are in the process of putting that resolution together so that we can bring it to the ledge and get more funding for the contingent fund from our general fund balance. It'll probably be in excess of $1 million, probably 1.5 million. We haven't sharpened our pencil yet completely, but that's about what we came to the legislature with last year at this time when we ran out of contingent funding, and I believe it was 1.2 or somewhere around there we asked for, and we only spent half of that by the end of the year. But county administration has been asked to put that resolution together, and we hope that to bring that forward to you very soon.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Rick, and thank you for the heads up. We know it happens just about every year, and thank goodness we don't have to do bake sales, so we can go to the fund balance. Much appreciated. And we'll talk about it when we see it, so thank you. Anything
Who
else?
says we don't have to do bake sales?
I don't bake, I'll buy. Henry?
Yes, Rick, do we have any updates on sales tax, hotel tax, or,
No, at the next meeting, I plan on bringing to you both of those. We should have August sales tax report for you. We haven't been able to get to that yet. We should also have the September ones for you at our very next meeting. So that will be the end of a quarter. Should be a pretty important report. And the same thing's true for room tax. Usually after the 15th of October, right around there, we get that report generated for the legislature. So I should be bringing both of those things to you at the next meeting.
okay, will we get an update on the casino revenue too? I mean, I know that Martha talked about the updates that we would have for the budget season. We'll be getting those updates on October 7th or the next budget meeting.
The casino revenue, we should be getting that mid-October also. So that's just a matter of timing. If they're late and we don't have it, we won't bring it, of course, for the casino revenues. But if I do have it, that will be on the docket also.
Okay,
And that's one thing we can rely on you for, Rick. You're very good about giving us these updates. So, not too worried about it. Martha, you have a question?
Yeah, just following up Henry said, looking for the latest information on Tuesday night when we start voting on the budget. If that's just a summary of what you already told us, that would be great. But, or any updates would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. All right. Why don't we take a quick break? We're a little later in taking our break tonight. Let's take a 10-minute break and be back here. I don't even know what time it is now.
Back 5 after, it'd be 10 minutes.
8:07?
Yes. 8:07. Let's make it 8:10. Be back at 8:10.
Wow, that's 3 minutes. Yeah, Deanna also, she updated on
are reconvening and continuing the meeting of the Tompkins County Legislature. Let's get back to our agenda. We are at standing and special committee reports. Miss anything? All right. Let's begin with Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Martha Robertson, Chair.
Thank you, Leslyn. We have not met since the last legislature meeting. We last met the morning of September 21st. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at 10:30. We'll be talking about redistricting, and I hope to have a resolution to bring forward for the committee and then the legislature to pass, because the public hearing for the southern tier on the redistricting maps is later in October. Hope also to have cryptocurrency on the agenda. And Jared Jones, from Senator Gillibrand's office, is going to be joining us, as well as the Cornell folks. Full agenda next Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, next Tuesday, 10:30, if you want to be there, part of the excitement. Thanks, Martha. Government Operations Committee, Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Government Operations will be meeting on Thursday at noon. We have a couple of things on the agenda. We're going to talk with Jay Franklin in the assessment department about a conservation easement exemption for Tompkins County. We're going to hear from our communications director, Dominic Recchio, about some new county branding information, as well as the email newsletter program that we are starting up. We're also going to have a vote on the amendments to the rules of the legislature that pertain to the code of conduct. And we are going to talk a little bit about our parking situation at our downtown campus. It will be riveting, as all GO meetings are. And just a little update. We have 18 applicants for our local independent redistricting commission. And the GO committee and I will be interviewing them later this month, and then bringing forth a resolution to the full legislature to appoint the 9 folks that we believe will best serve our county. So that's all for me. Thanks.
All right, any questions for Amanda? Okay, be there for the riveting. Planning, Energy and Environmental Quality Committee, Ann Corman, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We last met on September 27th, where we approved or accepted the hazard mitigation plan. And I want to thank everybody who worked on that, especially Scott from the planning department. And we also heard from Gay Nicholson from Sustainable Tompkins on some of their programs. One of the big issues that was brought up is how they've lost funding for one of their programs, which helps people who own their home to be able to help make it more airtight, make it more energy efficient with heating and air conditioning units. So they're at a standstill right now as for trying to continue some of their great programs that they've been doing. Our next meeting is October 25th, and we'll keep you in suspense, but it might be something along the lines of passing a resolution to continue the wonderful case board, among other hot topics. So stay tuned.
All right, y'all got all kinds of kind words tonight. Martha's exciting, Amanda's riveting, and Annie has hot topics. But any questions for Annie? Okay. Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Deb Dawson, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Before I go on to BCP matters, I just wanted to share with you all an email that we got this afternoon from Barb Ekstrom that sort of falls under the peak profile, just to let us know that they have received delivery of 7,600 reusable bags for distribution to low-income residents. And I gather these were purchased with $35,000 in funds from, or 3,500. I can't tell because she put the comma in the wrong place. In funds from DEC from the sale of paper bags at grocery stores. So that's good news.
Good news. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, okay, BCP. I guess the first thing we ought to do is go back to Resolution D that got pulled off the consent agenda. And the change that was made, if you look at the resolution on page 10 of your packet, in the first line and the first
Deborah?
whereas. Yeah.
Why are you going back to Resolution D? That's under Health and Human Services.
Because it was amended in BCP. I mean, because the resolution was pulled, because
Right,
it
so
was.
they will be addressed under Health and Human Services.
Okay, never mind then. All right, then, the first resolution I have to offer is G. Resolution of the Tompkins County Legislature as the elected legislative body of the County of Tompkins, New York, in accordance with Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, approving the reissuance and conversion of revenue bonds by the Central Bradford Progress Authority and declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the county for the Central Bradford Progress Authority to finance certain facilities serving the people of the county. The ID number 10373, and I move that.
Seconded by Rich John.
Yeah. All I can say about this is that this is not a bond issue that will be issued by the county. It will have no impact on our debt limits. It's simply being passed by Tompkins County because we are part of this Central Bradford Progress Authority that is bonding for improvements to Guthrie facilities, some of which are in Tompkins County.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any questions on the resolution? All right, let's vote on it.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 no.
Carries unanimously.
Okay,
Keep
I
going.
am neither riveting nor interesting or exciting, but I hold the record for the longest title of resolutions. The next one is very similar. It's Resolution H, Resolution of the Tompkins County Legislature as the elected legislative body of the County of Tompkins, New York, in accordance with Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, approving the issuance of revenue bonds by the Central Bradford Progress Authority and declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the county for the Central Bradford Progress Authority to finance certain facilities serving the people of the county, ID number 10374, and I move that.
I have a second, please. Seconded by Shauna Black.
Yeah,
Discussion.
and this is the same thing,
Same thing.
basically. Different projects, same thing.
Thank you. Vote.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Grandison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslie McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. That carries unanimously. Anything else, Deborah?
Just an apology to Shauna for stepping on her toes there with her resolution. And
I am
that's all
sure
I
her
got.
toes are good. All right. Thank you. Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Henry Granderson, Chair.
Yes, we held a special meeting in which we looked at the diversity statement and had some edits to it. And now Deanna, in fact, is doing, we're basically sending it to the staff to get their comments through a website. Also, get a form today and a form on Thursday. Get more comments to the diversity statement, which we'll probably approve at the next WDIC meeting this month, and then get to the legislature by the end of the year.
All right. Thank you.
It.
Any questions for Henry? Thank you very much, Henry.
Thank you.
Martha, back to you. Any reports from your committee? We already dealt with the resolutions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Housing and Economic Development last met on September 23rd. We will next meet on October 28th. September 23rd, we did talk about a few key issues. One was we got a presentation about the sunflower houses. You heard from students at the beginning of our meeting today. Tourism report, the first 2 quarters of 2021 are approaching our 2020 total. So things are picking up. We heard from Rosemary Avila on workforce and the summer youth program. 138 different youth were served at 40 different work sites. And as of the middle of September, our unemployment rate is 4.4%. We're the 5th lowest in New York State. And we had a good initial conversation about code enforcement based off the Tioga County survey that was a study that was done by CGR. And we'll continue the conversation at the next meeting. So that's what I've got so far.
Thank you. Any questions to Martha? Seeing none, thank you, Martha. We'll move on to Downtown Facilities Committee, Dave McKenna, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have not met since the last ledge meeting. We meet again on the 14th at 3 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions for Dave? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Public Safety Committee, Rich John, Chair.
Thank you, Leslie. The Public Safety Committee will be meeting October 21st at 3 o'clock. I anticipate we're going to have some discussion about the planning for a backup emergency communication center and some discussion of radio communication systems. I'd otherwise just note our jail population has been in the 30s for the last month or so. Our rate today is 35 in-house and 3 board outs.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Rich? Okay, thank you, Rich. Health and Human Services Committee, Shauna Black, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have not met since our last legislature meeting, and our next meeting is Monday, October 18th at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Shauna. Any questions on the report for Shauna? You do have Resolution D that was pulled off of consent agenda.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. If I can move authorization to accept funds, execute contract, creation of positions and budget adjustment for 2021, New York State Public Health Corps Fellowship Program, Health Department, ID 10385.
May I have a second, please? Seconded by Rich John. Any discussion on the, why was it pulled? It was pulled, and who pulled it? And
It was pulled, Madam Chair, because we made a slight amendment in BCP to the first line of the first whereas. It says, whereas the New York State Department of Health, New York's NYSDOH has awarded Tompkins County a $1,111,174 grant.
So if I could move the resolution that came out of budget. Can I do that, or can we just do an amendment,
Or we can just say
I
it's
would
friendly.
consider friendly.
It's friendly.
It's considered very friendly.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you for that. Let's have a vote on it.
Corman,
Yes.
Blaine,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne.
Yes.
14 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you. That carries. Anything else from you, Shauna?
No,
Take it
that's,
that's all right. Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
We had a brief meeting earlier this afternoon to consider the two airport resolutions that were on consent, one of which I pulled. The reason I pulled the one, which is resolution A, I think, throughout the letter, but anyway, had to do with the terminal vending contract. And that's going to be coming again to the legislature, but the airport wanted to do a little work on some of the figures on it before they had it finalized.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mike. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none. That's the end of our committee reports. We have no member filed resolutions tonight. Let's take up the minutes of the previous meetings. We have minutes of September 14th, September 15th, September 17th, and September 21st. My goodness, you all have been busy. May we move all of those at once? Moved by Leslie Show, seconded by Ann Corman. Any corrections that are major? Deborah?
Yeah, I just wanted to alert everyone. I contacted Kathy about this Monday. On packet page 59, in the first paragraph under budget, capital, and personnel, second sentence, the college has asked that we in Cortland County fund, it's not 15%, it's 50, 50.
That's a significant change. Thank you for that. A 50% local match.
Yes.
Okay. Any other corrections? Vote on the minutes as corrected.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Dave McKenna,
Yes.
Glenn Maury,
Yes.
Martha Robertson,
Yes.
Leslie Show,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Deborah Dawson,
Yes.
Henry Granison,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Leslyn McBean Claiborne.
Yes,
14 ayes, 0 noes.
those carry unanimously. There's no unfinished business. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Leslie Show, seconded by Martha Robertson. All in favor of adjourning? That's everybody. Double times. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone. See you at the next meeting.
Thank
Night.
you.
Everybody be